Hello everyone and welcome to the Java course. So this is going to be our 5th lesson of the course, and we are still on the topic of basic syntax. Just a kind of overview of what happened last class. We went over the basic if statement, as you can see in the code here. You can take a moment to just review over the code, and then I will go ahead and further explain the concept of the if statement and where we can apply it. So I'll give you guys about a minute or two to do that, and then we'll get started. Alright, so hopefully that was long enough for you guys to kind of review over the code here. It's really not too much code, and if you have any questions, just feel free to ask them right now. But other than that, we can go ahead and get started with our lesson for today. So we're going to start out with part of the logic of the if statement that we kind of skipped over last time. So when you ask a basic question, many times your answer is just going to be yes or no. But sometimes this question has an answer that goes along the lines of maybe. And this, this kind of begins to explore the option of multiple kind of answers to a possible question, or multiple conditions for our if statement to pass. Now, it's important to understand that an if statement is not really a question as much as it is a case generation. And what I mean by cases is essentially possible permutations of a certain data set, in order to manipulate a function, right? It's all very abstract terms right now, but in short, what this kind of means is that a if statement is used more to describe something. It is used more for asking the question of, does it follow this rule or does it not follow this rule? And it's not really good at asking any other question. Obviously, for obvious reasons, since it can only have equals or those other operators right here in order to judge whether or not it is a legitimate question for the if statement to evaluate. Well, I bring in this topic of more than one option because in your traditional if statement, normally you're actually just going to have this if. You're not even going to have this else. But in some circumstances, you're going to have this else. And, a kind of example of this is like asking in real life, is your color blue? If your color is blue, then you can say, well, your favorite color is the same color as mine, right? I like blue as well. Well, what happens if they don't like blue, right? That's when we kind of introduce the idea of our else statements. The else statement introduces the fact that what happens if you don't like the color blue? Say you answer red. Well, you answer red, conversation's not over, right? You don't just walk away, right? You say, well, instead, unfortunately, red is not my favorite color, right? And then, that kind of provides the dialogue needed. But say you're in a group of friends, and you're not the only one asking this question, but say your friend is also there as well. And your favorite color is blue, their favorite color is red, right? So now you ask for the favorite color, and they say blue, and you say, okay, cool, my favorite color is blue. And then they say red. And although it's true that it's not your favorite color, it's your friend's favorite color, right? So you introduce the case of, oh, this is my friend's favorite color. Now if they say it's like yellow, then you can say, oh, it's neither of our favorite colors. Hopefully this kind of abstract explanation makes sense to you, and that is why we have something known as the else if statements. Alright, else if, let me try and just write out a basic one. So let's create a variable, say color. Let's make it a string, and let's set it as blue for now. Alright, and our if statement will simply say if color is blue, then, oops, not a colon, then we print that is my favorite color. Just like that. And now we can delve into the topic of else if. This indentation is getting real weird. And else if, oops, it should be else if. Else if is like, say, like in the example, if color is equal to red, then you can say that is my second favorite color, right? And you know, you don't just want to include your blue and red. You want to include all the other colors as well. And you say, all right, well, if it's neither of those two colors, then I can go ahead and I can print out that is not one of my favorite colors, right? And if we are to go ahead and run this program, whoa, I accidentally typed an extra L. That is unfortunate. Alright, let's run that again. And we can see that it reaches this and it says that is my favorite color, because right now string color is set as blue. Now we go ahead and we change it to yellow or red. And oops. When we run this, and we can see that it says that is my second favorite color, referring to this statement. And finally, if we were to change this to say red blue, an imaginary color, which is probably purple, we can see it says that is not one of my favorite colors. So quickly, we've now seen all of the test cases right here, meaning that we kind of are trying our best to kind of understand like the use case of our else if statements. So there's a couple of things that you want to pay attention to with these else if statements. First of all, you can have infinitely many else if statements. Alright, I can add another else if here, and I can say if color is equal to yellow, I can say that is my third favorite color. And if I change color to yellow here, then we can see that it will say that is my third favorite color. Alright, and this kind of introduces the basic idea of the logic behind Python. And you're like, wait. This else if statement is very, very similar to this if statement. So why can't I just, you know, put multiple if statements, right? If color is equal to blue, if color is equal to red, if color is equal to yellow. Well, here comes the contradiction, all right? The else if statement not only has if color is equal to red, it also has a built-in if color is not equal to blue. And you're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because, you know, it's not there. You don't see color is not equal to blue. But the reason why that's the case is because it can only reach this case right here. It can only reach these lines if color is already failed this case, right? So if the color is already proven to not be blue, then that is the only time it will reach red. Likewise, it will only reach yellow if it's failed both blue and red, right? It will simply never reach yellow if, you know, I just say yellow, right? And, well, I mean, what I mean by that is, like, it will only reach yellow if it just doesn't say blue and red. So, you know, if I were to flip up the if statements a little bit, and instead pointed out, say, color dot car at 0, right, is equal to A, or why don't we do B, right? And if we are to go ahead and we change this to blue, you're going to see that it's never going to reach this line. It's never going to say that is my third favorite color, because it's already completed this entire section right here, right? When it goes ahead and it goes into one of these print lines here, it automatically voids the rest. It doesn't even check these. And the reason is because it's asked like a question, right? If you say your favorite color is blue, your favorite color is not also red, right? It's not also yellow. So that's kind of like the verdict behind if statements. So I'll give you guys about 2 minutes to just kind of soak in what I said. It's quite a lot, and it's the basis of all your logic problems that you'll pretty much ever do in Java, at the basic level at least. So I'll let you guys soak it up for a minute, and then I will go ahead and kind of wrap up our if statements, and then we can move on to other parts of Java, and maybe even talk about some of the other cool things you can do with if statements. Alright, so hopefully that was long enough for you guys to kind of soak in what I just said. Now we can go ahead and move on to another concept, alright? This concept is known as nested statements. And in case you don't know what a nested statement is, it's quite like what the phrase suggests, alright? A nest is something, you hold something within it, right? So essentially a bird nest would hold another bird in it, right? So likewise, a nested if statement would have an if statement within an if statement. And you're like, whoa, what just happened? I barely understand if statements, right? Alright. The concept of if statements is really the hardest part to grasp, and all the add-ons are much easier to get once you really understand how if statements work. So if this is still confusing to you, go back and just review your basic if statements. Go into your IDE, just practice writing if statements. Simple ones, alright? Just like these. This one is a good one. This one's a good one. Anything that has a good condition, and you can use any of the operators, it really doesn't matter. Alright? Now, back into the topic of nested ifs. It is a little bit of an abstract concept to get, so I have to go ahead and type out the code for you guys to kind of understand it better. Alright? So, say someone has a favorite basketball team, alright, and oops, I'm going to need to define the typing of that, and say this team name is going to be called team, we'll call them Tigers, alright, Team Tigers. That's their basketball team, alright. Well, on top of that, I want to check what is their favorite player, right, on their team. So favorite player is going to be, say, John Lewis. Alright, we'll just use a random name. So these two are, they're completely separate variables. And, when you go ahead, you have a conversation with someone, you go like, oh, what's your favorite basketball team? And you go like, oh, cool, same team. I like Team Tigers as well. And you're like, oh, who's your favorite person on that team? And you go, oh, yeah, my favorite person on the team is John Lewis. Oh, me too, right? So that's kind of how you would expect a conversation to go. And we're going to try and replicate that using nested if statements, all right? So I'm sure you guys can already guess. The first one is going to be very simple. If basketball team is equal to Team Tigers, all right? We're going to need that space there. Then we can write if, same exact thing, favorite player is equal to John Lewis, then print, or system print it out, we have the same favorite team and player. Now, you're like, wait, alright, maybe the other dude said, Jacob Lowry, alright? And, just any random name, just not John Lewis. And you're like, alright, well, we still have the same favorite team, so we're going to write an else statement in here, and we're going to say, oh, well, that's cool. We don't have the same favorite team, but, we don't have the same favorite player, but we have the same favorite team. Right? Still exciting stuff, right? We still support the same team. Now, what happens if we don't support the same favorite team, right? Now it gets, all right, well, we have nothing in common, so I can say, I like the Tigers better. How about we say that, all right? And this is the basis of a nested if. All right, we have two layers of if statements, and if I'm to just go ahead and run this program, you will see that it will reach this line right here. We have the same favorite team and player. Likewise, I changed this to Lewis with 3 S's instead of Lewis with 1 S, and it will say we just have the same favorite team. And our final example is we don't even have the same favorite team. Oh my god. Let's run that. Alright. We don't even have the same favorite team, and it says I like the Tigers better. Alright. Very, very basic example, but it is going to be hard for you guys to get at first. Alright. Extremely hard for you guys to get. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the first layer of if statements, it's nothing too complicated or anything like that. But once you start reaching, layers where it's like you have to implement multiple levels of logic, even in a regular conversation, that can be hard to keep track of, let alone in programming. So it's important for you guys now to learn a skill known as commenting. Alright, and I'll show you guys this after I let you guys look at this example for a little bit. So I'll give you guys about 1 or 2 minutes for that. Alright, hopefully that was enough time, and now we can go ahead and move on to the next portion of this, which is commenting. Alright, if you ever get lost, commenting should be your go-to, or writing it down on like a notepad or something like that. Just any way of keeping track of what in the world is going on in your program. So I personally like to comment in chunks, and what I mean by that is I like to go ahead and instead of going line by line, I like to do like a couple lines at a time that make sense. In this case, it'll be these two variables. Alright, and I can say we define basketball team and favorite player. And next thing we do is we start first level of if statements asking for favorite team. Else is on line, and we want to just refer to the line that the else statement is on, which is 76. And this way we go ahead, we read this comment, and we see, oh, okay, so this is the if statement and this is the corresponding else. Alright, nothing too really fancy about this. It's just keeping track of where everything is. Alright, and then this is where we say second level of if statements asking for favorite player, and in this case we don't need to say where the else is because it comes directly after. Hopefully this kind of thinking process helps you guys. You can really do anything. You can just write this down on a notepad or something like that. It's very helpful to put line numbers. Line numbers is something that it's like kind of like direct access. It's not like something like, oh, near the end of the program or halfway through this chunk of code. It's nothing abstract like that. You just give the line number, it's right there. There's no going around it or anything like that, right? And make sure you update your lines, because once again I just added another line and it bumped it up. Now it's on line 77. Alright, but as long as you have the code line in the general area and you're like changing it super often or something like that, you can just say 70 something or near 80, just so you have like a scope of where to look and you don't just get lost in this, because it's very easy to get confused when you get lost like this, when you have a lot of these things. So yeah, that's just the best way to track this kind of stuff. Alright, it's also very helpful that NetBeans highlights these words in blue, these special keywords, so that you can look for the corresponding ones very easily. Alright, so we've kind of introduced the basic idea of nested if statements, and now I'm going to tell you guys that nested if statements also go on infinitely, just like your else ifs. Alright, and yeah, that sounds pretty frightening. Realistically, your nested ifs should never go above 2 or 3. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there's kind of another way to represent this. And I'll show you guys this shortly. And, it's all these kind of new things I'm introducing you to inside these if statements. It's nothing really special or anything like that. It's more, you just have to really practice it in order to get it. That's like the only special thing about this. Even though it seems all intimidating and stuff, once you practice it, it comes easy peasy. Alright, I am now going to introduce to you guys something called combining conditions. And you're like, alright, well that kind of makes sense. What do you really mean by that, right? Well, here I asked for your favorite team first, and then once we got the favorite team, I asked for your favorite player. I can ask both these questions at once. And I can do this by saying if basketball team is equal to team Tigers, and I'm going to use some mysterious characters here. Oops, let's use caps. And then I can go ahead and say this. Alright? And you're like, whoa, what in the world is going on? And just to prove you guys that this is indeed what's happening, I can go ahead and run the file, and you can see that it prints out this line twice, one over here and one for this. And if you guys just really want to see the difference between the two, I can just add a special thing right there near the end, so you can see that on this line we have our extra dashes on the side. Yeah, so is this kind of confusing stuff? No, not really, and I'll explain to you guys momentarily. This character right here, it might be a little small on your screens. This is the and symbol. And now you're like, oh, that makes sense, right? Well, I want you guys to read it in your head. Make sure you really got it. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys about a minute or two to just kind of try and pull in what's happening here, and then I'm going to explain what's happening. So just 1 or 2 minutes. Alright, so I hopefully you can kind of try and guess what's going on. Alright, well, this is the and statement, and if I'm to read this out loud literally, it says if your basketball team is Team Tigers and your favorite player is John Lewis, then I'll print this line. It's not more complicated than that, and it will be that simple every single time. And I can add infinitely more of these ands. I just gotta make sure I don't mess up any statements, right? Now you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. Is there the same thing for or? And there is. Right? Or would be our fancy little things, vertical lines, alright? You've probably never seen this character before in your life. And the reason for this is because you really have no real reason to, unless you're trying to like format something cool, and vertical lines tend to look better than slanted. Anyways, it is going to be the shifts of your forwards or backward slash. Yes, the caps of your backward slash. It is supposed to be located on the top right of your keyboard, underneath your backspace. If you have the same keyboard as me, I don't know if you do, but if you do, then that's where it's located. If not, I'm sure you can just Google it up, or in Java, and you'll be able to find it. Now, this is where I also introduced the concept of parentheses right before we end. Parentheses are incredibly important. And the reason why I say that is because when you have a combination of multiple ors and ands, you tend to get lost on accident. And many times you'll write unintended statements, and because you didn't write parentheses, you didn't cover everything. And it's a very, very common mistake. So it's very important when you go ahead and you write your program out, write out an initial kind of guideline to just kind of see what you really want to be composed of inside your or and and statements. And don't be afraid to use your nested ifs, especially when your statements here get very complicated. All right, there's no reason to really back off from it. Obviously, try to refrain from only using one condition if you have like 10, right? And try and put like maybe like 5 and 5 or something like that. But overall, the main benefit of using nested is that you can directly access the else of this one condition here. You can't do that with this because you have to copy and paste this. You have to copy and paste this and then put this all into another line and then write else if, and then it gets a pain in the butt. But other than that, it's not really too much of any trouble for you. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them right now. But if not, I thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you guys next week, where we will most likely end our topic of discussion on if statements. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you guys next week.